Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to Be My Guest. Today we have, as a real treat, many of you are going to remember Upton Bell. And Upton was on WTAG in Worcester Radio, and he's done a lot of other things too, and he's got a book. Welcome, Upton.
It's great to be here. This is one of many books.
Yes.
I think.
Go ahead. This is, first of all, many of you know that he was a radio announcer, a talk show host. He's been on BZ. He's going to tell us all about it. He's an author of Present at the Creation, My Life in the NFL and the Rise of America's Game. We're going to talk about that.
How do you like that? By the way, that was shot at Harvard Stadium. You can see it in the background. So anybody wants to join me at Harvard Stadium to run the steps, they can do it.
How long did it take you to write this, Upton?
It should have taken just about a year and a half. But it took almost 3 years because I was in a very serious accident.
You were?
Almost died in the accident. You'll love this story. This is an exclusive to you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was being interviewed by New England Cable News, Jim Browdy, who you know, on whether Tom Brady or not deflated the football. This was just before the 2016 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I did the interview. It was early in the evening. And by the way, I said that, in my opinion, that Brady did deflate the football, but what's the big deal?
Yeah.
On my way home, coming down Route 2 on my way to Cambridge, car either hit a patch of ice or something, went up an embankment, flew up in the air, turned over, and came down another car. And when they finally pulled me out, I had broken my neck in 2 places, 39 fractures of my spine, every rib broken. And if the person who rescued me had not placed my neck in the right thing, I would have died right there. So they rushed me to the Mass General Hospital. They said, too much damage, we can't operate. So for the next 6 or 7 months, I was in various different hospitals, and finally was able to force myself to recover. So we lost almost a whole year, Ron Borges, myself, in doing the book. In fact,
were you upside down in the car? Or did you
yes,
flip?
I was upside down.
You must have been terrified.
No, because and I wrote a story which I should send to you and for your audience for Boston Magazine on the whole experience. And what I said is, when that car took off, going up the embankment and then flew up in the air, I knew I was dying.
What town were you in at that point?
This was in Belmont.
Okay, all right.
And it was like a near-death experience. I didn't see the white light, but I was flying up in the air, and I was so relaxed and felt so good. It's quick. This happened in 30 or 40 seconds. That I said, you know what? If this is death, this is great. Until they pulled me out, and the extreme pain came, and on from there. So,
how about your friend though? How'd he do?
Well, there was nobody in the car but me. But
I thought you were being driven.
No.
Oh,
I was the driver. And luckily, the woman who was driving the car that I landed on her front hood was not injured. So thank God for that. So that's where I lost almost a year, or it would have been done in 2 years.
Upton, tell us how many years, when did you start and end on WTAG?
1992.
Till?
1998.
Okay. Were you on the daytime drive or the nighttime drive?
No, I was in the morning drive from 10 to 12.
That's probably why I didn't hear you. Because
you didn't get up that early, huh?
Well, it depends, but I always hear like afternoon. And you mentioned WMRC.
No, WCRN, yes,
CRN.
which is, and after that, I went back and did a lot of stuff on radio and television. Then the owner of the Carberrys, who used to own radio stations or stations out in this area, they wanted me to come on as a commentator. So I did with Peter Blute. Remember, he used Congressman Peter Blute?
Oh, yeah.
And then Hank Stoltz, who a lot of people know. So I would do commentary on that, and off and on I still do things there, but right now I do a lot of television commentary for places like New England Cable News and different places.
And you knew Jerry Williams? You met him, right? Or you knew?
What a crazy man!
Oh, he was fun.
He the kings of radio, not what you hear now, because what you hear now is everybody hates each other.
I know.
Jerry Williams, David Brednoy.
Right.
I mean, you go on and on and on with all of the great.
Do you remember Dr. Harry Sobel and Dick Syatt? Dick Syatt with a hotline dating thing. That's when I was coming up into the dating world.
I would see him every once in a while.
Little guy.
Yeah, little guy.
Very handsome, though.
My fiancée, Joanne O'Neill, worked with him for a while when he was at Legal Seafood. So he's been everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Is he still alive?
I think he is.
Dick
He's
Syatt?
living in Florida.
Because I know he'd gotten married and had a son. Last I heard.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he knows all the best dudes over there. And of course, you know Jordan Levy.
Oh, gosh, yes. I knew him when he was mayor.
Yep.
And I still think he does a talk show on WTAJ.
Oh, he does
at
every
night.
afternoon, 3 to 6.
Oh.
Now we're going to get we have so much to talk about. Upton is not only was a former radio host and a former football league executive. This is the book. Now, guys, this is fantastic. Present at the Creation: My Life in the NFL and the Rise of America's Game. Upton Bell with Ron Borges. Is he a friend?
No, well, he's a friend, but Ron, for years, wrote for the Boston Herald. He wrote for the Boston Globe. He now has a syndicated radio show called Talk of the NFL. Okay. And he is one of the original members of the NFL Hall of Fame committee that elects these players each year. So he has done a lot in the business. And I was looking for somebody. It's really important to tell anybody, I think, that does a book, whether it's sports, politics, or whatever it is, that doesn't want to actually write it themselves. Mm-hmm. Find somebody who really knows it. There are very few people alive that I can say, let me tell you what it was like back in 1937.
You weren't alive back then.
Yeah, I was born then.
What?
Yeah, I know I look like a modern day idol, but I was born in 1937 and lived it's in the book.
I thought you were a baby boomer.
Oh, God, no. No. And actually, that book starts at the Chicago Bears training camp in 1946 when they were called Monsters of the Midway. George Halas is in it. Every major person from that era starting up. And remember, in the early years, I was born in 1937 when my father had already founded the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. My
mother had lent him the money. We got all that. I lived my early years in a hotel because his father owned the Ritz-Carlton in Philadelphia.
Your grandpa?
My grandfather, who was the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, but one of the richest landowners in Philadelphia. My father had bought the team, but his father said, I am not going to pay for these football players and all these other things. He said, the one thing you can do is you and the players can live in the hotel. So I was a kid running in a hotel, and up and down in the elevators and living.
Could your friends visit you there? I mean, you have buddies, right?
Well, I didn't have buddies at that time because I was only 3 or 4 years old.
Okay, you're a kid, yeah.
And then we went from that to a series of mansions on the main line big enough to hold 33 players, my mother and father, my brother and sister and me. So I had kind of a wild young life, and I loved every minute of it.
Oh, my God. Now, were you the youngest, oldest? What were you?
I was the middle child.
Oh, you are the diplomat.
Well,
that's what they say about middle kids.
Yeah, well, you try to please everybody.
Yeah, the youngest, and then the oldest is like the first flight out of the gate for the parents. Have you ever read that book by Dr. Kevin Lehman?
No.
It's The Birth Order Factor.
Yeah.
I'm an only of the youngest children. It was so many years apart. It was like 2 onlys.
Yeah.
So I've got characters of a youngest, an only, and oh my God. So you were in the middle.
Well, yeah, I was in the middle, but I would say again, and I want to tell people who get this book, this is really interesting, because it's not only a story about football and the history of the NFL, but the history of America, which I try to capture.
Yeah.
50% of the people who bought the book are women.
Are you serious?
Nationally, yep. And if you go on and read the reviews on Amazon, the reason is, it is really a bigger story about a family and about the woman that I really think helped found or keep pro football going. My mother, Frances Upton, basically lent my father the money to go down to City Hall in Philadelphia and buy the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets out of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And they got married. And basically, walking back from City Hall, my father saw this big billboard with Franklin Delano Roosevelt's National Recovery Act Eagle.
Yeah.
And he said, that's the name of the team.
The Eagles.
That's how they got named.
Wait a minute. The guy who's on Shark Tank, what's his name? He owns one of the... God, have you ever seen that show, Shark Tank?
Occasionally I try to avoid it.
Yeah, okay.
If I
He's on
can.
the end. He
owns the Dallas Mavericks? Is that the
Yes,
name? Yeah,
I think so, yeah. Okay.
I'll leave him go.
Yeah. So
He's
your
very,
dad...
No, he's very smart.
Yeah.
He's very, very smart.
But your dad owned the Eagles.
He founded them.
Yeah.
He owned them. He coached them. He did everything
Yeah.
in those days. Unlike today, where you've got billionaires running around with 50,000 stooges doing all of their jobs. But the other thing is, and I'm trying to find it on NBC. My father, Bert Bell. In fact, I just went back for the 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
Penn was one of the first Ivy League teams to play in the Rose Bowl in 1917.
I know that one, yeah.
My father was the quarterback, captain of the team.
Yeah.
He threw the first pass in Rose Bowl history.
So your father was a football player.
Oh,
Were you?
One of the best.
Were you?
No, I played basketball in college. I played.
Do you still do it? Why not?
I did it to my accident. I used to go over and play at Harvard all the time.
You did?
At the
Can't
gym.
do it, not now? Not a good thing?
Well, I can do it, but, you know.
Yeah.
the-
We're talking with Upton Bell again, and he is the author of Present at the Creation. How can they get your book, Upton?
You can get the book. The easiest way, if you want to, I mean, it's in all bookstores.
Yeah.
But the easiest way is go on Amazon and order it, and you can get it fairly cheaply. I mean, it will be now almost 2 years, and people
Yeah.
are still buying it like mad. Again, because the story itself encompasses all of America. And one of the things I do want to tell you, I know we're jumping around, if you go to the epilogue, which I wrote myself,
Now that's the bit in the back, right?
in the back.
All right. I'm going to make sure I got
The
it.
epilogue tells the story of a lot of the stories I couldn't get in there, including, I'll give you this, including my mother knew Al Capone. She knew Machine Gun Ned McGurn. Her roommate was Ruth Etting. Ruth Etting, if you remember the movie Love Me or Leave Me, which is on Turner Classic Movies with Jimmy Cagney and Doris Day, and introduced the song Love Me or Leave Me or Let Me Be Lonely, da-da-da-da. She and Ruth Etting were on the stage together, and Etting, they both slept with pistols under their pillows for fear that Mother Gim Snyder would get mad at Ruth Etting and come in and
Did your
threaten to
mother
kill her.
sleep with a pistol under her pillow?
Yeah, yeah. That was show business then. This is the Roaring '20s too. This
Okay.
this goes back and forth almost like a movie.
Yeah.
Her background, and I think this is why a lot of women really like this book. They can skip, if they want to, the sports part. But her father was one of the chief of detectives of New York City. He spoke 7 languages, never finished high school.
Oh, my God.
His father was thrown out of Ireland for trying to blow up a police station. His father then wrote a book that you can get on Amazon today, 120 years later. It's called Uncle Pat's Cabin. It's based upon the Irish version of Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. That book is in Gaelic. It's on Amazon, and it was a bestseller all through its day, and is still on the list. His father, William Cleary Upton, came to New York, and to avoid, he was essentially thrown out of Ireland. Of course, Frank Upton came with her father. The reason that he got in the police was that he could speak 7 languages, so they would send him in to try to discover who the gangsters were in the Black Hand, which was the forerunner of the mafia, into the German section and different places like that. And my mother said that he used to come home and they didn't recognize him because he was in disguise.
Yeah.
So she was in high school and she had to get a job. So she ended up working at Macy's in the perfume counter.
Yeah.
This is the real story, not that phony Lana Turner story discovered at a soda fountain.
Yeah.
One day, a talent scout for the Schubert Theaters came by and said, you're really a very good-looking young woman. What's your name? She said, Frances Upton. And he said, here's my card. He said, if you're ever interested in getting into show business, he said, do you have any experience? She said, well, I do ballet and I dance. 4 years later, she was a star on Broadway. Discovered there, Frances Upton, Ziegfeld Follies, George White Scandals. She introduced the song Making Whoopee with Eddie Cantor.
Well, you remember Gertrude Lawrence?
Sure.
She's buried right over here in Upton.
Wow.
Your name, is that Irish? Is it Bell Upton Irish or Bell? What is
I'm half Irish, half British, half French, and half and half.
You're a little bit like me. You got a lot in there.
Yeah.
You really do.
No, shit. Well, my mother, of course, was Irish, but my father, came from a family actually that went all the way back.
Yeah.
His mother, her family, goes all the way back to Lincoln's sub cabinet, and either her uncle or whatever it is was the one that suggested to buy Alaska.
Huh.
So there is incredible history in here
yeah.
that surrounds the football, but there's so much more in
Upton, when was this picture taken of you on the cover?
it. Yesterday.
No,
I'm kidding.
It wasn't. When was this? You look. I mean, I know who you are, but when was this taken?
About 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, this was before or after the accident.
Before.
Did you ever end up over at UMass Medical? They're terrific over in Worcester.
No, I did not. I ended up at a place that I would recommend to anybody if you have severe injuries like mine. It's called Newbridge on the Charles.
Where's that?
Which is in Dedham.
It's a hospital?
It's a rehab place,
Yeah.
but it's also attached to these magnificent condos where people that have a lot of money and want to retire can come there and buy these magnificent condos.
Sure.
So, but it was absolutely, that saved my life there.
Now, are you back doing any radio?
I'm not full time. I have no desire because I'm in the middle of a lot of different things. But I will tell you this because it hasn't been announced yet, that I'm in the middle of a huge project that somewhere down the line in the next 5 or 6 months, there will be a huge collection at the University of Massachusetts Amherst,
Yeah.
and another one at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell.
Mm-hmm.
The one at Lowell will encompass 500 of the greatest authors around the world that I interviewed.
God.
Each one of the books are inscribed to me
Yeah.
with their whole history and background. It will be the largest collection that combines the interviews with the book, with all of the other stuff. I think it'll be the largest in America.
Of course, yeah, I bet.
The other one
Yeah.
is the whole history of football, college and pro, going from basically today all the way back to the 1900s. You'll see pictures of my father, his grandfather, by the way, and that's also in the book,
Yeah.
or his father, was second in seniority on the Walter Camp Rules Committee, and he and Walter Camp went to the White House and negotiated with Teddy Roosevelt to change the rules of college football when people were dying
Yeah.
in the early 1900s. And Teddy Roosevelt said, basically, if you don't do something about it, I'm banning college football.
Really?
So
yeah.
his father was one of the most influential people in America. You will be able to see my Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
I never sold it.
No?
There's going to be a big glass encased thing on the 34th or 35th floor at the UMass Library in Amherst. You'll be able to see my Super Bowl ring, Super Bowl watch. You'll be able to see a kicking trophy of 1919 of Burt Bell that won the drop kicking thing.
Your dad.
Dad.
His trophy, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a history of the Bell family and America. So those two huge projects haven't been announced yet. But you know what? Why not give the exclusive to you? My God,
You're not busy, are you?
Huh?
You're not busy, are you?
That's and I still do a lot of different interviews. I just don't have time to do a regular radio show anymore.
Now, you have been on with Dan Ray on BZ.
Yep.
Who else did you mention?
Well, I mean, I've been on every
Peter Blute. Yeah, we mentioned Peter.
Peter Blute.
But you need to on Jordan. You should get on Jordan Levy with him.
Well, I used to do that with him.
Yeah.
A lot of different times. But the big thing is that I've been on every radio and television station in Boston.
Now, okay, here's something really, really freaky. I said to him, not thinking he would know. I said, my father, Gordon Lewis, founded WIDE radio in Biddeford, Maine, probably late 40s, early 50s. long before I was born. And this guy right here said you'd heard of him, and you'd been over to WIDE.
Yeah.
And what was it you did there?
Nothing. I just went in. I mean, I knew the radio business. I knew the people in the business, but I didn't do anything.
When
there.
did you go there?
God, I can't tell you.
It wasn't back when Dad was there?
Probably not. But I knew who he was. I mean, in those days, today you have programs, radio stations popping up all over the place.
God, yeah.
When a station had, I mean, when I first came to Boston, WBZ Radio and Television was it.
RKO came pretty soon.
Yes,
right?
they did.
Yeah.
But you knew who they were. Now they're popping up all over the place. So you knew everything. It's like sports. It's like everything now. The cable business is the business, and you have CNN. You have Fox, as you know, you MSN. They're popping up all over the place. Yeah. Then all of the traditional stations in radio and television, you knew who they were.
Yeah.
Now it's, of course, as we know, it's a completely different ballgame, and that's okay.
Have you got another book coming?
I'm thinking about doing it. The only thing that's held me up is these huge collections and a couple other things.
You got a lot there.
But one of the things I thought about doing in this book, there are certain chapters that I would talk about. But one of the things is I traveled America starting in 1963 for the old Baltimore Colts.
Yeah.
And in those days there were no superhighways.
Yeah.
So I drove all the way from Baltimore, see 50, 60 colleges, all the way out to the coast of Oregon. I can tell you stories. I got a lot of them in the book, particularly that chapter I do want to highlight in a few minutes called "Is the South is Burning."
Yeah.
I saw America twice, going back and forth there. I saw good things and I saw horrible things.
Yeah.
I saw going from town to town. You could be in the hills of Tennessee and have breakfast, grits and all the other stuff, and somebody would say, "Yo, come back again."
Yeah.
You could go 10 miles down the road and you would go into a different township that was mainly African American. They called it black then.
Yeah.
And there's a completely different atmosphere. The South, I found one of the most beautiful places, but also another country.
You could definitely write a book about this. On its own.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking about, and I'm discussing it with my fiancée Joanne O'Neill, who, by the way, is the daughter-in-law of Tip O'Neill.
Oh, I loved Tip O'Neill.
Well, she can tell you 100 stories about him.
I loved it. Now, you said, okay, right in the dedication, but you went, "I wish to thank Joanne O'Neill for her invaluable love and help all during this 2-year process, as well as my friend novelist William Martin for his many suggestions, directions."
You ought to get him on your show.
My son, you guys send me his info or send it to him. My thoughts are of my son Christopher and my grandchildren Peter and Jack, but most of all Bert Bell, his dad, and Frances Upton, his mom. How old are your kids now?
You ready?
Yeah.
Well, my grandchildren are like 19 and 20. My son is 51.
Okay, my son's 26. He's a millennial.
Yeah.
So your son is a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
That's the one after the boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got one son?
One son.
And you've got two grandchildren.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So they're in one's in his 20s already. So he's in my son's generation.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What did they do? Grandpa, did they know about your story in the NFL?
Oh yeah, but they all have the book and everything else. Well, and the interesting thing is, as people discover this book, they're going to discover an era that and what I was looking for here, what I'm going to look for again, is the greatest thing about 60 Minutes, and they had considered doing something on this.
Yeah.
They
should.
Is that what is the top line in it? Tell me a story. If you tell me a story, I'll put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily, I'm writing about pro football, but I'm telling you a story.
Yeah.
And the story is basically, I mean, there are many things in there. Is it a 21-year-old kid in college playing basketball, having the time of his life, one of Bert Bell's 3 children.
What college were you at?
LaSalle College.
LaSalle, okay.
In Philadelphia, not here.
Yeah.
And actually, till about 10 years ago, I held the record for the most field goals for a freshman in a game. That record stood for 50 or 60 years.
Very good.
On a Sunday, October the 11th, my birthday was October the 13th. We always went to the games with my father. We were always, all three kids were really close to my father. We're close to my mother too, but she was great. Hollywood was still there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So we were all at the game that day, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that he founded, versus the Pittsburgh Steelers that he co-owned before he became commissioner of pro football.
Yeah.
It was a very hot day. We're at the game. I'm sitting across the field. It's a back and forth game.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting. 2 minutes left in the game. The Eagles are driving for the winning touchdown. Tommy McDonald, who just recently died, Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
As Tommy McDonald crosses the goal line to get the winning touchdown, Bert Bell drops dead across the field.
What?
There's a picture in the book.
I forgot that he dropped dead across the field.
He was watching the game across the field. He was with the governor at the time, and Art Rooney, his former partner.
Well, how old was your dad?
He died he was 64.
Oh, my God, he was so young. What happened? Was it a heart?
He had a heart attack. Gone.
But the heat might have done something?
No, he just had.
That's so young. Oh,
yeah,
my God.
Absolutely. So I saw it, and it's described in the first chapter. I charge across the field. I get to him. And luckily he just converted to being a Catholic. A priest was there giving him the last rites. They put oxygen on him to try and save him. The oxygen thing didn't work. And so they rushed him up to the hospital, and he was dead.
Where was your mom?
She was at home.
Oh, she must have. My
Well,
God.
it's all in that first chapter.
How did she find out about it? They did you call her? Or did the hospital call her?
No. It broke in the news nationally. It was a national story.
She heard it through that first. You think?
No, they sent somebody up to the house and said, "Don't let her get to the radio. Wait till the kids come home."
Oh, God.
And they did it. But my point was, that's the day that Upton Bell, the kid that was having a lot of fun in life, became a man.
Yeah.
And the other part of it, I always think of Charles Dickens, because after that, we as a family never were together again. That put the whole family asunder. My sister went to California. My brother went to New York, the leg office. I eventually go to Baltimore, the training camp.
Have they all read your book?
Huh?
Have they read your book?
Yes. Yep.
We're talking with Upton Bell, and many of you remember him from Worcester WTAG Radio, and he's also been on other radio stations. He's written this great book, Present at the Creation, My Life in the NFL and the Rise of America's Game. Again, how can they get your book, Upton?
Just go on Amazon, and it's very, very simple. You can order it. You can get it in 2 or 3 days, and don't worry about Jeff Bezos. He's got enough money to buy himself out anything. So you can get it on there, and you can get it at a very, very good price. And I guarantee you this. I promise you. If you don't like the book, let Jan know, and I'll give you your money back.
Oh, no, don't get me in the middle of this. By the way, before I forget, John Harrison is a friend of yours.
Yes.
He's our owl guy. Wasn't he on with the owls? His pictures and...
Yeah. Well, not only that, I'm in his book.
Why didn't I see that?
And the first one, Dead in Good Company.
Yes.
Well, if you look in there, I wrote an essay that they like, as well as all those Pulitzer Prize winners in there, and it talks about somebody walking through the Mount Auburn Cemetery while confronting the idea what death is like.
But how did you two hook up as friends?
Through Bill Martin and a lot of other people. He's a fabulous guy.
Yeah, he's terrific.
One of the best bird authorities in America.
He was going to bring you today.
Yes.
Is he sick?
No, he had to go to New York.
Okay.
He was going to, but he had to go to New York on some special thing with a friend.
We're delighted we met Upton's fiancée, right? Joanne? Yeah, we met her today. She's coming down the aisle. I thought, this is a very special lady if she's from Upton Bell. This has to be either his wife or his fiancée. We got about 1 minute left.
So should we get married on the air?
Go for it. We got about a minute left. Upton told me before we go something it was back in 1995, around that
Something
time.
like that.
There was going to be an Upton Bell Day here in Upton. And I guess it just didn't go through. But Glenn Fowler, our producer of this show, was sitting right over there, and he said, you got to connect with him.
I'd love to. I love you, Upton. Who knows? Some people around here, some people from the Upton family. By the way, just quickly, the Uptons, I have family all over the world.
Yeah.
The Uptons go all the way back to one of the Uptons served Queen Elizabeth in her court.
Oh, wow.
The history of the Upton family, there are over 10,000 pages in the New York Public Library on the history of my family.
So Upton, our town, was named after a town in Britain, or the name of Britain.
Yeah, well, Britain. So Upton, here I am. I love you.
All right.
Bring me back.
We'll get it. Now we're going to get you back on the show. Your next, okay, you've got to do this book about your travels through America.
Yeah.
When do you think you're going to get started?
Probably about 2 or 3 months. I've got to find somebody. I could write it myself, but I'm running out of time in life with all these other things to do. So I'm essentially looking for somebody that has a feel that's completely different.
Almost like a memoir.
Yeah, well, this is a memoir, but this would be a different type. And particularly, I want to capture what went on in the South. I was right outside the bridge in Selma the day that Martin Luther King and everybody was attacked. I also pulled into a gas station before that, and you can imagine what was on the restroom wall.
Geez.
And I, stupidly, because I was a kid, I have a kid, 25, 26, I commented something to the gas station owner, and it was reviewed by Peter King of Sports Illustrated. And he said, if I hear one more thing out of you, I'm going to blow your brains out. And he walked in to get a gun to blow my brains out. So I want to tell you, times haven't changed that much. Be careful.
Do you know, before we close, do you know Bert Chandler, Attorney Chandler in Worcester?
I don't know him, but I know who
Harriet
he is.
Chandler is a congresswoman.
I love her. I used to have her on the Harriet, come back. It's
She's
Upton.
around. She's even on television out in Worcester. He was on the show the other day, and Attorney Bert Chandler has written a book. It's a political book, and it's doggone good, and I'm going to help him get it out there.
Please, and tell her, because she used to be on my show every week. I said, Harriet, for crying out loud, do something about the legislation.
I got to write this down. She was on, when was this, Eb? Do you remember?
Well, she was on every time from 1993 to...
In TAG, right?
Yeah, on TAG. I said, Harriet, take care of those crooked people down there. You got to represent the middle of the state. Let's go.
She is, and she's great. I was telling Bert, she's adorable. I mean, I watch her when she's on one of the Worcester cable stations.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun. So you're going to stay in touch with me about this next book, right? We're going to talk about this book. This is the guy. We're not going to let this guy go. This is amazing. I grew up in a family where Dad was in radio. He met Mom at Emerson College. She was on stage. She wanted to go into stage.
Yeah.
But I don't know how he did it, but he talked her into, no, basically we're going to get married and you're going to be a homemaker and a mom and this and that. She did it. She said he could have sold ice to Eskimos. But that's how they met in English class at Emerson. And then, of course, Dad was in radio for a while. And then he went into sales exec.
It is amazing. One last 10-second thing. My mother was engaged, Catholic, to one of the most powerful men's son in the country, Bernard Baruch, who was the number one fighter. She was engaged to Baruch, and she was dating Lindbergh and all of these different people.
And then your dad came along.
She met him, and the first thing he said to her, I would never marry somebody that drinks. You're drunk. I would never marry you. Go back and get sober.
Who did she say this to?
To my father.
Your dad did.
Because he was a playboy. He was a Philadelphia playboy at the time.
Lord.
3 years later, they got secretly married, and Walter Winchell broke the story. It's in the book.
What can I say? Go downstairs to the Upton Library, catch a copy. I'm going to donate mine. I said donate mine to the dedicated authors wall for girls and for guys. Okay, the NFL. This guy is multi-talented, and lucky you survived that doggone accident.
Yeah.
Upside down on Route 20. Route 2.
But isn't that perfect? Up, side. Up is down, and down is up.
Upton, you got to come back again. Okay.
I will. Thank you.
We'll see you
It's
next
great.
time. Be my guest.